Welcome back to episode 11 of the Aftercon podcast. hmm Before we dive into that, I'm going to give my long ramble and make it as short as possible on my hot take on the ArrowVerse. Arrow, first 3 seasons, really good. 4, 5, 6, 7. I think there were 8. Not good. I think I quit around 5, 6. I think you quit around the same. Something. They recycled the same plot. Like there was whatever season, the team broke up in Arrow 3 times. Like Stephen Amell's character, like just disbanded the crew. He went, I don't need teammates, so I can do this alone. It happened in 3 times in one season, outside of already happening at least once in every prior season. So it was just like way too much of we don't know what we're doing anymore. Great cast, acting fine, just like stop. It's like similar in Supernatural, where it took them roughly 10 seasons, where it was one brother hates the other brother and leaves, and then they're finally like, okay, we can move on from that plot. We don't need to do it anymore. The it does well. I still like it. I could even do a rewatch. So then I went back after they did their short final season 8. I got caught up. Did not start from the beginning, and that last season was actually like there was a lot to love about that final season. The Flash, I want to say had 6 seasons, maybe 6 or 7, and I quit. And I still haven't finished it. I think I quit 2 seasons. No, and for very good reason. So I think it was after season 5. Like the budget just kept going downhill, and there's this episode. I don't even remember who the bad guy was. I think it was the season after the Thinker, the guy in the wheelchair that with the big brain. I think it was the following season of that. Um, the production like cost just had to have been like pennies to the dollar. It was insane. I remember thinking it looked like an episode. This fight scene literally looked like an episode of Power Rangers. These bad guys are all like shooting at the Flash with these guns, and it just no. What like I mean, outside of the costumes, no, that's a whole other that's a whole other right there, but sort of similar. But yeah, like it was like we don't have any money left, and so all of like the gunfire just looked like it was a kid. Like it literally looked like it was for like a 5 to 8 year old kid show. Is kind of what it became, and they had fired. We were just talking about this before the show started, but Hartley Sawyer, who played the elongated man, cannot believe I remember that off the top of my head, and he was like the comedy that the show needed at the time. And he had been like a season in, maybe a season and a half. And some old tweets surfaced that were, I don't remember if they were like sexist or if they were falling on the lines of racism, but I remember the thing being he used to be a comedian and they were jokes, nothing that he meant seriously at the time. Obviously, that's just a hot take. I don't know him. But that's what I remember, the opposite side being, and that was just at the time when everybody was getting canceled. And even if they were meant seriously, again, you just wake up one day and you're fired. And is he a different person? Is that a reason to fire somebody? Same thing that happened with James Gunn. James Gunn, way bigger star, had the ability to bounce back, thankfully. But so they lost him. They had just pulled in his love interest, which in the DC universe was supposed to be like, I don't even know her name. I just remember at the time, like reading through this, and their love interest was one of like the biggest in the DC universe. Fans were very excited. She was going to be brought on as a series regular the following season. So not only did they ruin his career, they inadvertently also ruined her career. She probably has the ability to bounce back. He hasn't acted since 2020. So it's doing stuff like that is just it's dumb on so many levels, or it can be. Um, anyways, then we move on to Supergirl. Supergirl, that first season. I mean, you remember it, Kayla. I think it was on CBS before they moved it over to the CW.
Something about the Flash quick.
Fair enough.
My gripe was the fact that he's supposed to be the fastest man alive. And I'm pretty sure that every bad guy they had in there was
Hmm.
faster. You
Yep.
know?
It's so true. It's part of the theme is I'm Barry Allen and I'm the fastest man alive. And to your
Apparently
point,
not.
every season, every bad guy is faster than him.
All right, continue to Supergirl.
So, I mean,
Season one was a
you're spot on. But yeah, season one of the Supergirl, I believe it was CWS, CBS, not CWS, CBS, and the production there was bad, but it wasn't bad like it looked like a kid show. It looked like all the makeup and costumes were like if regular people just created them. Like faces, I remember Brainiac, his face literally just looked painted on. It was the weirdest. I was like,
Crystal.
who's making this and thinks that this is like good quality television?
And you made me watch it.
And I did. And actually, to that point, Supergirl's cape was literally made from cloth from her best friend on the show.
Right.
So, I mean, sure.
Which makes sense, you know.
Hmm. Supergirl gets quote unquote canceled, repicked up at the CW, and they combine them into one universe. I think at the end of her second season, there was a little bit of a universe crossover thing. And I actually really liked season two, and maybe even a little bit of season three. But even with that, the
Season two
problem
was
that
top notch because we got that love interest guy. Remember? And it was super
we
funny.
did, we
But
did.
then he left the show and then it all just went to hell.
That's right. I did forget about that. It's gonna bug me. But anyways,
You keep talking.
we had we had an issue with this because we felt the same, and I think a lot of the audience did. It was like at a time again in the country when it was like things were just really, I would say, divisive on a lot of subjects. And what Supergirl tried to do was they tried to incorporate a lot of real world happenings around um, whatever it might be, like human rights, civil rights, racism, sexism, transgender rights, all these things. They tried to incorporate it into the show, which isn't bad. But what they did that didn't land was they put the focus on those things and they made the superhero stuff fall to the background. When you've got a show that's meant for superhero fans, and this happens in movies all the time too. Like it happened in Avengers Endgame. At the very end, there's this scene when all the girls just happen to land on the same little rock at the same time with Spider-Man. But there's like, I don't know, like 10 to 20 women on this rock. And it's like all that stuff is totally fine when it fits into the story. But when it's forced, it really just turns the audience away. And it's like, again, people go to see this for a superhero story first. And if you can find ways to weave those things in there, it can be super empowering for people. But it was like, I also just want to watch this superhero show, and you were not getting it. And I think I quit probably around the end of season four. You didn't make it as long as I did. I think I tried to give it a shot.
It's just because they were literally just trying to push like politics down your throat.
Right, there were, and
And
that's not people go to television to escape. And if you can touch on those things in a way that you know makes the audience think is one thing, but just trying to force things down their throat is not the way to do it. Um, anyways, so the show really just thundered.
now that one
Um,
funny dude's name is Chris Wood, and remember, he actually ends up marrying Supergirl in real life.
oh, that's right. I did forget
Didn't
that.
know that.
I loved him, and
Yes,
we
he
knew him from
was on the
another show
Vampire
too.
Diaries for a while too.
That's right. Yep.
He,
Origin. No, Vampire Diaries. Yeah, he was the one that went
yeah,
into
Kai.
the
He played
yeah
Kai.
alternate world with Bonnie.
Yes,
Yeah, he had the twins. He pretty much murdered his whole family.
naturally, as one would.
Right. Anyways, so love the Arrowverse for what it was. It did a lot of good for DC, and then it also did a lot of bad by the end of it. The CW's budget just went really far downhill. I think they sold, and they just, I don't know. I think people stopped caring enough. Um, from a TV budget standpoint, it just wasn't kicking it. But anyways, so from that show, we still haven't met Grant Gustin. Um,
We might this fall, next
we
month.
might this fall. That's right. He's scheduled to hit the Twin Cities Con.
Yep.
Um, so that will honestly, I would be pretty stoked for that. Um, Stephen and Mel, we haven't met, but I may have snagged a autograph from our very first convention or our
Not
second
even count.
convention. Doesn't count. Um, but yeah. So let's kind of go through the list here. So Danielle Pennebaker, who plays Caitlin Snow,
No, I didn't meet her. You met her at DragonCon a couple years back.
right?
Did you get your photo taken with her
I
too?
did. Yeah, she was
How was she?
very, very, very lovely. I mean, she was just she
Super
not
tall.
super tall. Yep, she didn't have like a big personality, so to speak. It was more of like a quiet, like high picture, but she wasn't rude, like my experience meeting Willa Holland. So I also don't think that you met Willa Holland because I don't think I got her autograph. I think I just went in for a photo op.
Yeah, I didn't meet her either.
Yep, and so Willa Holland plays Thea Queen. She also plays um, is it Caitlin? Um,
Gosh, what's her last name?
what's the sister's name?
Marissa
Cooper. Caitlin
Cooper.
Cooper.
Caitlin
Yep,
Cooper.
on the OC, which we just rewatched, and she's actually very sweet in that show. She's also very very likable, I think, in Arrow as like an actress. I think. Um, but she was running late to the photo ops, and um, I get there. I'm kind of excited. She's very pretty, and as a person, she's super tiny. She's just a tiny woman, and she had her sunglasses on. And I think what had happened is just she was out the night before, and if anything, she was hungover, and I think that's why she ran late. And she also was just kind of rude in her demeanor,
Yeah,
which again, maybe she's one of those people that's just a very good actress, but maybe she's not that nice in real life. Could have been a bad day, but I got the vibes that she's just, she
but now
was
you
there
remember it
she
forever.
was for sure there for the cash. Yeah, and that's kind of the memory that I have. But after rewatching the OC, I got to tell you, kind of kind of turned me back around. I like her
Did
in
it?
the show. She's got a little spunk. Um, okay, so then who is next?
You met John Barrowman, who played Malcolm Merlin in the show.
Uh, right.
I think
Yeah,
we saw him at our first Comic Con convention, but I don't think we took our photos or videos. I think I just snagged one from across.
right.
And
Yeah,
then I
and
got in trouble for taking one.
good times. You got to be very careful about stuff like that.
Don't like you. That's very nerve-wracking.
Right.
You met Katie Cassidy, didn't you?
Katie Cassidy, yeah. Um, man, what was her name in the show?
Laurel, right?
Yeah, Laurel.
Laurel
Yeah,
Lamb.
yeah. She was fine from what I remember. Again, somebody that doesn't have a big personality, just like a good actress, and she was there doing photos, autographs, and um, that's been so long that I don't even remember if I asked her anything. But when that show was so popular, I mean, man, I was craving meeting any of those people that I
That
possibly
is true.
could, and
Those
she was
those
high
shows
up on the
pop for a
list.
while. Yeah.
I mean, they still are. Um, Yeah, and then I think the two more recent ones that I met would be Tom Cavanaugh, um, who plays um, Tom Cavanaugh played Harrison Wells, and then I got a dual photo with him and Carlos Valdez, who plays Cisco Ramon in The Flash, aka Vibe. Man, Tom Cavanaugh,
Oh,
he
yeah.
played Harry Wells, Harrison Wells, Eobard Thawne, Sherlock Wells, who one of my
I like
favorites. But yeah, when they were going through and they had all those different versions of him. That was one of the best things they did. He was a character that they kind of like killed off, or he left every season, and then he kind of came back
Came
as a
back in a different
different
form.
person, and it was great. We had H.R. Wells, Harrison Nash Wells, Reverse Flash,
Oh
and a handful of others.
yeah, the
Um,
Reverse Flash killed the Flash's mom, didn't he?
Correct. Yeah, and that was also like one of the versions of that was Eobard Thawne, if I'm not mistaken. That version of him, a lot of the same face. Oh, yeah, it's a lot. But I remember when that show first started, the thing that they did so well for the first couple of seasons, having the Reverse Flash as like a bad guy, it was really really top television from like bad guy stuff. He's a great actor. Again, that show went downhill for a lot of reasons, but acting wasn't one of them. And then when when Cisco Ramon left, they had like brought this.
He left.
Yeah, he ends up leaving. It was his total choice to like be done with the show after like season 6 or something like that. But without him, and then having a couple of like new cast members, it was just a different show with Caitlin Snow, Danielle Panabaker, and Grant Gustin just kind of continuing to lead it along with Jesse Martin, who played Joe West. Um, and of course, his love interest, the daughter. But yeah, again, so many of those characters that you just got hooked into kind of started leaving the show a little bit one by one, and there's also less to love.
Sure. Yeah.
But they were great. I mean, that was a fun photo. They were dressed funky. You could just tell that they were both like nice, fun guys in real
Sure.
life. Um, and so that was good. The show, the show had been over with. I was a few years past watching it, so the hype was gone. But it was one of those people where it's like
Nostalgia.
nostalgia, and sometimes you just gotta bank on. You never know what these people are gonna star in again
And
down the
that's the
road.
thing. We probably won't see them at a convention for a while. Like, I'm surprised Grant Gustin's going to be at the Twin Cities Con. He must have some
Hmm.
cash or something.
Well, I mean, the show's been over with for a couple of years now. He probably has had a good break. And what we've seen before is sometimes this is like something that people will want to do to like get
Keep
their name back
their
out
image
there, their
alive.
face, get people reinterested in them to promote work. Like um who did we just see that was there, and she was kind of doing some self-promotion for her new Netflix show, who plays Lana Lang.
Lana Lang.
Right.
I don't know her name offhand. God,
Man,
what
how
are
are
we
we man, we're
today?
getting old. We're getting
Um,
old brain. Um But yeah, and then I think there was one more on the list that we've met.
but Grant Gustin is going to be in something called Operation Blue Eyes. It's in development right now. So,
Interesting. So I mean that could for sure be it. Um, but then yeah, I'm trying to remember. We met John Wesley Shipp, who plays Grant Gustin's dad, but he also plays an old version of the Flash because he starred in an old
right.
Flash series from before we were born, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Yes.
Henry Allen. Um, I don't remember where we met him, but it had to have been a Dragon Con
I think so.
in Atlanta.
Yeah,
Um,
that would just make most sense.
yeah, and yeah, man, it's been so long. Some of the celebrities that you meet leave such a lasting impression, but I also think that some of it has to do with what they mean to you, right? Like
Yeah.
I still remember our very first convention when we met Adam West. I think that was probably the highlight of my life at that point because he did the Mayor West voice from Family Guy.
Right.
And man, that threw me for a real loop, you know?
You never
Um,
forget your first, Jay.
you, ne- you never forget your first double entendre, so to speak. Um, but yeah, so those shows are all kind of dead and gone now. They almost landed a spin-off that kind of didn't end up coming to fruition. It was supposed to be a future thing called The Canaries.
Oh, that's
I think there
right.
were a couple of different TV shows that they almost had kind of going. Um, and then there's a whole other spin-off show that they had, that starred originally it had starred the brothers from Breaking, not
Breaking.
not Breaking Bad, from Prison Break,
Prison Break. Yeah.
and that was a great show. That was just a lot of fun, and you just knew going into it that you shouldn't take it too seriously. Um, but yeah, those CW shows, man, they were all the rage, and now they're filming on like HBO or just all these random networks where there's going to be TV shows, and everything DC under the sun now falls under James Gunn and Peter Safran, and uh, we've got the animated Creature Commandos TV show coming out. Um, I think it comes out in December, if I'm not mistaken. And remember,
Watch it.
you will, because this is the thing that he's doing that's really good. So all of those things that fall under his umbrella, whether it's animated or live action, it's going to be the same actors and actresses playing those roles. So in the animated one, all the people that are going to be there will see their way to live action. So like you're going to have um, Sean Gunn, who played Weasel, right? So he's playing a different character in Creature Commandos, I believe, or maybe he is playing Weasel. But you've got like Frank Grillo, who you'd recognize, um, playing a character, and he's already feel like he's doing a little bit of filming for a live action. So that's like really cool. So it's like you can kind of get multiple audiences um, interested in the DC universe. It means you have more to follow, but
Right.
right. So it'll be good. Superman. I haven't seen anybody like an audience so excited to see a Superman movie in years.
Yeah.
Uh,
I wasn't really a fan of those
right.
latest bunch.
And Man of Steel was my favorite.
Yeah.
So we are few, but we exist. Anyways, so yeah, I think that about does it for today's episode.
Yeah.
We have more people again that we want to meet that existed in this universe. Grant Gustin, hopefully coming soon. Um,
I would like to
yeah,
meet Arrow. I feel like he'd be cool.
Stephen Amell,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now he's doing like lame wrestling TV shows.
Oh, right. Right.
Right.
Because he was a wrestler previously.
Exactly. Yeah. I just, neither of us have any interest in that type of thing.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that about does it for today's episode of the AfterCon podcast, episode 11.
Yes. Catch us on Instagram. Handle is AfterCon, @AfterCon. And catch us on Apple Podcasts. And DM us if you have any requests.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.